all the people that have, consistently been coming to the Living Trophies Master Zoom class. And then I want to welcome people who are coming for the first time. We're extremely excited to have Herb Courtney as our presenter tonight. We started this Zoom back in early April, and we've had some tremendous speakers and presenters come on, and they have done a tremendous job of sharing their knowledge with all of us. And tonight will be no exception. Our mission here at Living Trophies Master Zoom class is to positively impact and empower as many lives as we possibly can through the game of basketball with the platform we have as coaches and as educators to create living trophies. So tonight, our presenter is Mr. Herb Courtney. Herb is the founder of Renaissance, I'm gonna read his bio here, of Renaissance Search and Consulting Group. Herb has been, first of all, he was a scholarship player at the University of Delaware, had the opportunity, we should say, he had the opportunity to play for David Henderson, and then for Monty Ross, and he had a successful career at the University of Delaware. And then he has been in intercollegiate athletics for over 15 years. And 7 of those years he serves as a Division I assistant coach. Quick sidebar, Herb and I first met when he was an assistant, and we were down at the Peach Jam, and we were both looking at the board and trying to figure out the schedule. And then his boss came over and asked him a quick question, and Herb was trying to find the answer. So I had to tell his boss, like, no, this young squire has been here all day. He's got the schedule laid out for you. All you got to do is follow it. And it was interesting because when Herb and I reconnected, we laughed about that story. But he is a rising star in this industry without question. He is doing some amazing things with starting a search and consulting firm. And without further ado, I just want to make sure that we are all in attendance here tonight, ready and eager to learn from Mr. Herb Courtney. We want to have the mics muted, and then Herb is going to present for us, and then we always end up, Herb, with a question and answering session. All right, so without further ado, Mr. Herb Courtney.
Thank you. Again, thank you for having me on here, and I always love the opportunity just to get to know people, right, and get to know their path and their story, because like in coaching or in college athletics, everyone's path is different, and how you get to where you want to be takes just meanders and just goes in different directions. But at the end of the day, we're all trying to reach the same goal. So I'm here for all of you as a resource and going forward, and to help you any way that I can. And definitely want to take this time for you guys just to get to know me a little better, my why, and why I started this firm, and the process and what I'm doing and trying to get accomplished. And obviously at the end, just have that question and answer for them. So like Coach said, I played at University of Delaware. I was able to play for 2 really good coaches, and I think being able to play for 2 really good coaches helps shape who you are, especially in this business, and how to navigate it and create those relationships. So I played like Coach said for Dave Henderson and Monte Ross, and I was fortunate enough to pursue a dream and play overseas for a couple of years, able to travel the world. Played in Argentina, Israel, and Turkey, and then at some point you got to hang them up, right? And I made that decision and got a job in the corporate world, and that's where I really learned the search space, right? The craft. So I was able to land an opportunity with the biggest IT services firm in the country, Tech Systems. And during that time, I was there for 3 years. It really just honed in on those skills, right? I'm not very technical with IT. I don't know, what a software developer or a data architect, how technical they get with it. But, we had to find the best talent that was out there in the Philadelphia market and pair them with our clients. And I was kind of more focused in healthcare. So that's where I really learned how search, right? There's certain things that you have to look for, questions you have to ask, the amount of vetting that you have to do to make sure that you're putting the right person in that seat. So that was a great experience for me. Grew exponentially in that way, and then just playing the game my whole life. I missed basketball, right? I missed the game, so had opportunity to take a volunteer role, director of ops role at Binghamton University. So I was there for 7 years. Like had a great time. Met and worked with some great people, and as a coach, I felt like, and this is kind of going into my why, how I started this. I felt like, just being able to develop and having an organization that you could go to help you advance and navigate through college athletics was something that was missing. As an assistant, I think, I was looking for that. And there's certain, smaller organizations, and it was great when you're there, right? When you have those breakout sessions. And I went to Think Tank out here in California with Diedrich, and that was a great event. And, NAFSAD had something, but I wanted something that had a little bit more follow through, right? And a little bit more direction, and someone I could really lean on. And, so that was probably my biggest frustration as a coach. And I just think, as an industry, especially coaches of color, I think we have a mindset of competition, right? Like, I know where we have our close friends, but we don't really share, right? And we don't really embrace each other like we need to, especially on the road. I think we could do a better job of that. And, and it's because we are going for the same job. There's only so many opportunities out there. And then you add another layer, right? As a person of color in this space, then that really gets, narrows down, right? So instead of us really kind of collaborating, I think our mindset is, no, I can't really share because I'm trying to get the same job you're trying to get most of the time. You know what I mean? So me creating something like this kind of takes that out the equation, right? Where I can be, I can help. I could be a resource. We're not going for the same opportunities, and leveraging my network that I've been able to accumulate over my years within college athletics to help, maybe give you some opportunities, on the men's or the women's side, right? So I remember one of the earlier Zooms, Coach Sutton had. Tanya Vogel from GW, she said, administrators hire coaches, right? Like, so, I mean, how are we connecting with administrators, and how are we leveraging our networks for that? That's what I'm here for, and to help you navigate that, and to help you, open some doors. So that's huge for me. That was a big issue when I was a coach, and when I knew I wanted to pivot and do something else, I knew that was something that had to be addressed. And that's something that I'm very passionate about. And also, when you look at the numbers, and I think we all know that the diversity within college athletics isn't good enough, right? I just looked at Binghamton where I was working. There was only one person of color in that department, athletic department. So that's just not good enough, right? So there's a huge problem, issue with that. So I knew, with talking with ADs and talking with different people in the business, how can we fix that? Who is out there? And the more information that you research, and I've done a lot of research when I was trying to build this company up, it's eye-opening to see the statistics, right? And I really implore all of you to look at those statistics, because you can see where we are right now. And that, when I looked at all those numbers, that was my biggest motivator. Say, what, something definitely needs to be done. If you look at this, the percentage of Black coaches in Division I, it's 23%. The all-time high was in 2005, and that was 25.6% of coaches were people of color. That's not good enough, right? If you look at on the women's side, 14% of the women's coaches are women of color, and then 5% are men of color, right? So 19% on the women's side are minority. So when you look at those numbers, and then if you look at the leadership, right, with ADs and chancellors and presidents, the number gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So why is that, right? And it really made me think, like, from a systematic standpoint, why are we not getting opportunities? What's the hiring process like, and how can we fix those inequalities within that system, right? And now with just the temperature of our, everyone, social awareness and the injustice, and everyone, they say wants to be part of the problem, not part of the problem, but part of the solution. But we got to look at that stuff. We got to look how we hire. We got to look where we're getting candidates from. And I don't think we've done a good enough job to this point of doing that. So that's why I'm here. That's the work that I'm trying to get accomplished. And there's a long way to go, right? Like I said, if you look at the numbers, even at the conference level, and it's crazy to think this is the first time a person of color would be hired at a certain position, but Kevin Warren and Keith Gill, the commissioners of the Big Ten and the Sun Belt in 2019, that was the first time someone of color in the FBS level was a commissioner for the first time, and that was 2019, right? And 2015 at the FBS level was the first time a woman was hired as a conference commissioner. So there's still so much work that has to be done, and it takes everybody. But at first, it's the education piece of it, right? I don't think you can't fix a problem if you don't know it exists. And now with the whole movement right now, and people really evaluating themselves on how they're hiring and what they're doing, now they're aware. Now the next step is the action, right? And making sure that we're creating the platform and we're creating the opportunities now for everyone, people of color, people from all different backgrounds, ethnicities, to have a chance. And one of the great things about speaking to groups like this, and people get to share their story and some of the challenges they felt, right, and how they can help try to navigate their careers. And it's a real issue, it's a real thing, and it impacts everybody. So that's what I'm doing. That's my goal, that's my vision for my firm, is to make sure that underrepresented groups, people from all backgrounds, have an opportunity at these jobs on athletic administration or on the coaching side when they're qualified, right? And making sure that they have a seat at the table. And also from a development standpoint, how are we developing as coaches? Who's out there that can help us with that? And I think from interview preparation, to how to run your program, to what our AD's talking about, right, when they're hiring. What are those questions? If you don't know that, how are you going to be prepared for when your name is called? And sometimes you only get one shot, and if you don't perform, you might not get another one. There's one thing about administrators, they talk. So for good, bad, or indifferent, if you do a great job, I mean, they do a very good job of saying, you know what, I had this job opening, and this person interviewed, they did great. But they also, the same way, like, I had this job, and this coach bombed it, right? So you might not get another shot. So you have to be prepared. You have to be ready for that moment when it comes. So that's another part of my firm where I really want to expand upon and educate and help, right? Because if you don't know, and you want to seek that information, it should be available to you. It shouldn't be the select few. And I know there's some great organizations out there like the Top Connect and the Next Chair, which I think are all very important development symposiums. I think that information should be available to everybody, right? So that's my goal. That's my vision, and I'm just striving to get there, every day, right? And making sure that we are growing and we are getting that seat at the table. So I'll definitely segue into, I know a lot of people want to know, how does it work, right? The process and the search firm, and how do you get involved with one, and in all those, because that's the hot topic. How do I get involved with a search firm? And especially when you're established in your career. And it is a great question. My advice: you should know every search firm, not just one or two, because we all have relationships with different administrators and ADs and presidents and chancellors, right? We're all connected in different ways, so it does make sense for you all to have connections with each and every one of them. So if you don't know some of the major ones in the Division I space, Parker is one, Bob Bodine, Ventura, Turnkey, so those are some of the other ones in the space. So you should get to know them. But I think the best way to get on a firm's radar, if they haven't reached out to you or haven't identified you as one that they need to have in their database, is have somebody that's either been placed by them, whether it could be your head coach if you're an assistant, or one of your mentors that knows them, and tell them simple, hey, I want to talk to Daniel Parker. I want to talk to Chad Chatwells. Have them bridge that connection for you, right? I think that is, it just gives it more credibility. It's going to put them on the radar. If Coach Sutton said, Herb, I need you to speak to this individual, I'm going to speak to him, right? Because I respect him, and he's very credible, So it's having those people kind of vouch for you and making those connections. And I also implore you to do that for administrators. I think you have to be very strategic on who you seek out, for help, who you seek out for mentorship, because not everybody cares, honestly. And the people you do reach out to, they need to know, or you need to know they do care, right? And they will make those calls for you, and they will help mentor you. So who is that for you? Who's in your inner circle? And that should always be evolving, right? If you're in the DMV area, you need to, have some administrators within that geographical location that you feel are up and coming, and ADs. And if your goal is to be a head coach, you need to know them. You need to know every single one of them. And if you don't, you're doing yourself a disservice, because the way you're going to get a job, your first job, there's a couple ways. One, you're already on a successful staff, you're associate head coach, you'll get bumped up, right? And because you already have that relationship with that AD and that administration. Secondly, the AD that you might have previously worked for them. They know you have a great relationship. Third, you know someone who has influence over that AD, right? So if it's the biggest booster at the school, or it's the chancellor or the president, and you put yourself in a position and you know them and they make that call for you, then you have a shot. But those are really the only kind of three ways you're going to get your first job. So the denominator and all that is at the administrative level, is at the AD level, right? So you have to find a way to surround yourself with the right ADs, the right administrators. When I was at Binghamton, there was 3 or 4 people I identified that I thought were going to make it. Like, they were super sharp, and they're going to be ADs. And they're all ADs, right? The one in particular, Ed Scott, right? He's an AD at Morgan State. He worked for me at Binghamton for 5 years, and he oversaw basketball. So those are the people you got to identify with, right? Who's that on your campus? If you can identify those people, I guarantee you 3 or 4 or 5 years, that person's going to be an AD, right? And I think, a lot of the times, a trend now, if you just look at ADs in general, they're usually older white men, right? So now they're kind of phasing out, and there's this new crop of ADs that are coming in, and you need to know who are those rising stars, and they're on your campus. They really are. So I do think you need to have those connections in that space, and making sure that who those individuals are. So that's the first thing when it comes to that. And then the process, just of a search firm, and when we get a search, the main thing is obviously we're going to have a connection with that AD. All right, so they're going to reach out to us, whether it's a basketball search or an administrative search. They're going to hit us up and say, hey, hopefully, obviously before it's even posted, that I'm going to have this position. I have a short list. I don't care what any AD says. They all have short lists of people that they have identified over their time. And, they're going to want me to bring a short list, so we're going to go over the job. What is the job? Some of the challenges they might have, what is the background that they're looking for in terms of the coach? How many, not years, but, sometimes they want a sitting head coach. Sometimes they're good with the assistant. Sometimes they want geographical, a location, right? Or I need a guy that has ties to this area, or a woman. So, is really ironing that whole process out and seeing what makes sense. So once I get all that information, it's all right, who fits that profile of a candidate, and that's how that's how I built my list out, so I'll give you an example. When I did the search at Lincoln University, athletic director Stinson, he wanted somebody that had ties, whether it's in Philly or the New York area, right? And that was a must. And he wanted someone with head coaching experience. So obviously, I know a whole bunch of coaches, but what was most important to him, I had to make sure that the list that I came up with met his expectations. So that's how, from a firm standpoint, that's how we get that's how I do it. I'm not sure how the other firms are, but, you really want to cater it to what that AD is looking for. So once I do that, and we vet you guys out, and, call around the industry and the business, that's another huge thing, is the vetting process. So what are people saying about you, right? Like, that's huge, and I tell you, any good firm is going to call everybody that has been associated with you, right? In terms of, obviously people you work for, previous coaches that were on your staff, your administration, because a lot of those firms have placed administrators in that department. So, what are they saying about you? What's your brand? What is your brand on social media? What are you portraying? Right. I think a buzzword in college athletics as a head coach, are you a CEO? Right. And I think people have different versions of CEO. Right. So what does that mean? And so when an AD will say, I need a CEO. So, well, it's a CEO in your eyes, right? Like, is that, raising money? Is it delegating all those responsibilities? Is it being in tune with mental health and the student athlete experience? What does CEO mean? Is it getting out, like I said, in front of, 100 people and being the face of the program? I think is finding out what that means, and for coaches, especially, assistant coaches, how are you portraying that, right? Because if everyone is saying, I need a CEO for my next head coach, how are you preparing to be a CEO? So I think that that's something that you got to look, like, what am I doing? How am I preparing myself for that? And I can tell you this, there's a lot of things you can do, right? Cause a lot of coaches would say, well, how do I do that? Right. I'm not a head coach. I'm an assistant and I only have so many responsibilities, so to me, I think is what can you take off of your head coach's plate? Right. I think the biggest thing is the development, the alumni, like getting in front of people. Obviously your head coach has to do it, but if he trusts or he or she trusts you, all right, I think that's something that you could go along with or start to take some of that stuff off their plate. Going to those dinners or to the Rotary clubs or wherever that might be. That's one example of doing it. What are your responsibilities? Are you managing a budget? ADs want to know, can you manage a budget? So have you done that as an assistant? If so, what are you managing? Is it the apparel and gear? Is it, your travel expenses? Have a story to tell and say, you know what, I've done this, I've done this. I'm in tune to today's athlete, today's, student athlete. Right now, student athletes are so, they found their voice, right? And how can you speak to that and say, you know what, under my leadership, this is how I'm going to empower my athletes. You should be able to articulate that. If you can't articulate that, they're going to pick someone who can, right? So you always have to know and tap into today's climate. And today's climate is student welfare, right? And the mental health piece. You have to be tapped into that. You have to be tapped into the student athlete experience. Now with COVID, right? How are you raising money? Because that's a real thing for every athletic department. How are you going to raise money? And what have you done in the past to do that? You got to be able to provide examples with that. So when I'm looking at candidates, I'm looking at all that stuff, right? And I know the AD is. So the more you can tell and show that you've done those things as a CEO, then you're putting yourself in that position. You're giving yourself a chance. And then, during the interview process, I found that in the searches that I've done, so many candidates have lost the interview within the first 5 minutes, right? Because they can't articulate their message, their vision, and how they can bring value to an institution. If you can't do that, that's like an elevator pitch. Like when I'm going out to an institution and a client, they're saying, why should I use Renaissance Search and Consulting? If my pitch isn't tight, they're not going to use me, right? Same thing for a coach. If your pitch isn't tight on how you're going to lay a foundation of culture, and what you're about and your vision, if you can't articulate that in a manner, you lost the interview in the first 5 minutes. So that's another thing that individuals, coaches really need to practice, right? You got to practice that stuff. And, so once you get to that process where we're having those interviews and you're talking to the committee and myself and you're laying that foundation of what does that look like? Is it in an organized manner? If you, like I said, if you can't do that, you're not going to get the job, So, and another thing that I've noticed within the interview process, people don't answer questions, right? If it could be something very simple, like, tell me about your culture and why you're a good fit. And you're talking about, well, what you've done here, and you're not really answering the question, you lose people, right? Just be concise, give 1 or 2 examples on how you can do that, and then move on, right? But answer the question, so that's another thing that I feel people or coaches are missing in that interview process, because you're so excited, right? And you want to get the job. And sometimes you just forget that, I'm trying to sell myself and not answer the question that the committee has asked me. So, that's another thing. And then, especially over the phone, because, people can't really see they can't see you. They can't see your body language. They can't see the emotion that's coming out of there. Right. So, can you engage? Can you articulate your story? And can you be concise with it and really answer the questions? And then once you get to, the round where, you're sitting down with the president and the AD and things of that nature, can you captivate? Can you story tell? If you can't really do that, it's going to be hard for you to get a job, because people have to envision how you're going to do it. There was the one thing I always remember, Syracuse, their football coach, right? Dino, at his press conference, he said, "Everyone close your eyes," right? And he painted this picture of what Syracuse football was going to be. And it's super powerful, right? And he is a storyteller, but you can tell why he got that job, right? Because he was able to articulate and paint, like, have that vision where everybody could see it and everybody can get excited, because that's the program he's going to lead. This is the product that's going to be on the field, and everyone can buy into that. That's the type of messaging that you have to be able to portray in that interview, right? And the ones that can do it on a high level, the ones that are going to get the job. So it is a process. It does take time, and it does take practice. And when you get in those situations, especially on that last interview where it's you and the president, right? How are you going to sell yourself, right? How are you going to articulate that vision? What questions are you going to ask that president? Can you ask, questions on that level, on the institution level, right? Because they don't care about, they care about your program, but they care about that institution, right? So it's, how can my program better, enhance the profile of the institution? How can we partner with you to make sure to drive enrollment? What are some of the your initiatives that you have going forward? What's the financial health of the institution post-COVID, and how can we help advance that? Those are the type of questions that when you're talking to the president and AD, that's that CEO mindset, right? That's, you're thinking bigger picture. You're thinking 3, 4, 5 years down the road. You're thinking the business. All right. I think if you get to that point, they don't care about X and O's, because you wouldn't be there. They feel like you didn't have it. At that point can you manage a multi-million-dollar business? And those are the type of questions that you need to be asking, right? So they can say, okay, yep, this individual, they get it, they know it, right? They understand the business unit of college athletics and how we can partner with our athletics and our men's or women's basketball team to accomplish our initiatives for this year. So I think that's a huge piece of the process, especially for smaller schools and bigger schools, right? Because they have all the TV contracts and all the good stuff. But for smaller schools that don't have those resources post-COVID, right? How are you going to articulate that? So those are things that we can be working on now, right? Where we do have some of the the time, and we do have resources, and there's a ton of Zooms right now, right? Everyone has these Zooms, and information's out there if you want it. You got to go seek it and go get it, and that's going to help prepare yourself for that moment, and you'll be surprised, right? Once you start, talking in those circles and kind of thinking outside the box, where you end up going. And I think sometimes as coaches we are so narrow-minded about our team and about just what we have on our plate. But at the end of the day, you still have to develop, especially when you're in that assistant coaching chair, right? Because if you want to be a head coach, and I'm sure most of you do, you have to be able to do that. And then when you get in front of administrators, you have to make it count, right? And I think using all those tools and be able to articulate that message, your vision, your culture, your philosophies. You only get, sometimes, like I said, you only get one shot. Make sure you know it inside and out. And I'm here to help you, right? And there's a lot. I know, Coach Sutton. I know he's been on interviews and he's done a lot of different things within this business. He's a great resource to have, right? I think, if you're lucky enough to get into these like top connects or next chairs, and you have like the speed dating, right, with ADs, that's another thing that can help, right? You can get in front of these people and you're prepared, because they don't happen very often. So when you do get those opportunities, you got to knock it out the park. So that's my suggestion in terms of how to prepare for these jobs. Kind of, the role of search firm. And for me, that's why I'm here, right? I need to get to know the people who are serious about their craft and who want to move on. I need to get to know what makes sense for you, because every opportunity is not for everybody, right? What makes sense for your background, where you want to be, and where you'll succeed to be a successful head coach, right? That's so important. We all say we want to be a head coach, but we want to be a successful head coach, and we have to do the things necessary and surround ourselves with the right people to do that. And to be a successful head coach, right? Who's in your circle? Who's your mentors? Who is that, right? And if you don't know who that is, you need to start really putting some serious thought into that, because for me, how I've built this, I've gotten some steam because of what I'm trying to do, but it's not solely because of me. It's because of who I'm surrounded with. And I'll be the first one to tell you that. I got a great team. I have a great group of mentors, in the athletic administration space and on the conference level, that help guide me and bridge those connections. It's not on me, right? Because, 6-7 months ago, people didn't know who I was, you know what I mean? So same thing for you, right? If you surround yourself with the right people and you have the right mission and vision, and you can articulate that, you're going to put yourself in the right position to achieve that goal, whatever that is for you, whether it's head coach or being a successful head coach and running a program, so, I definitely, wanted, to leave you with that. And, I wanted to, kind of open it up for any questions that, you guys might have for me.
Herb, yeah, we're going to open it up to question and answer. You've been here sitting in the audience before, so this tribe is very, very intelligent. They take a lot of great notes, so they're going to ask a lot of great questions, and this has already been tremendous. And then I'm certain that the questions that the people have to ask will lead us this conversation into even more depth. So the first question goes to Mike Lopez. Introduce yourself, please, and then ask your question.
Herb, thank you for your time. My name is Mike Lopez. I believe we met earlier.
Yep, for sure. Yeah.
Here again, do appreciate your time and all. My question's based around kind of like, how do you sell your uniqueness of your firm to schools? Is it more like a bidding war, or do you have a specialty that your firm's known for? How do you go about selling yourself to universities?
That's a great question. So I think I have a couple of differentiators that the value that I can give to institutions. Number one, I'm a former player, professional player, and coach, right? When you look at the space that I'm in, no one has that experience. Eddie Fogler, his previous coach, but that has really separated me. Two, I have search experience outside of athletics, right? So when you're trying to search for, a Fortune 100 or 500 company, that comes, you got to deliver, right? And there's certain things that you have to do and techniques and methodologies that you have, that to deliver that product. I have that experience, and I was very successful on the corporate level. Lastly, I'm tapped into a lot of different organizations and networks, especially ones geared towards minorities, right? And I think with our temperature, with college athletics and the awareness of there's not enough diversity, right? And how have we hired traditionally? Usually, an AD or whoever who has a job, an administrator, will pick up their phone and call their friend and say, "Hey, I got this job opening," right? And that person is probably going to look like them, probably going to be the same age. It's just human nature. It doesn't yield to diversity, right? So if we've done that for how many years, now how are we going to really diversify that talent pool? How are we going to have a well-represented candidate pool where we're pulling things from everybody? Well, for me, the last year, I've been strictly focused on building a database that is well represented with people from all different backgrounds and ethnicities, and forging those partnerships with a lot of those organizations, right? So that's my value. That's what separates me. And I think, right now with the Black Lives Matter movement and, a lot of institutions that put out statements saying we're going to change the way we hire and eradicate the inequalities in the search process and things like that. Well, how are you going to do it? Because, they haven't done it yet to this point. And that's where I come in, right? Because I do have that experience, and I am tapped into those networks. So that's kind of how I differentiate myself from the other firms.
Fantastic.
Great question. Next question goes to Lamont Franklin. Introduce yourself, please.
Herb, how are you? Lamont Franklin, University of Miami.
Hey, Lamont.
Really appreciate you jumping on here tonight. This has been great so far.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time, for sure. So the question I have for you, and you actually touched on a couple of parts of my question. You talked about the vetting process once you speak with the AD and kind of, create that profile of what that job is, what they're looking for. Can you maybe talk a little bit more in depth about the work that you do prior to that, right? Because I would imagine once you have that meeting with the AD and you go back to formulate your short list, you've already vetted candidates. You already know, okay, I'm going to this person, or this person, because you've already gone through a process of vetting those individuals. So can you maybe just talk a little bit more about that and what that looks like prior to you even getting into a conversation with the administrators?
For sure. No, great question. And that's the role of a firm, right? Is to have those names ready. So, throughout the year, and, people who I identified or just through word of mouth, right? I think a lot of it does happen through word of mouth saying, if I'm talking to, Coach Smart or, different coaches throughout the business saying, man, who do you like out here? Who are some of the coaches, assistant coaches, head coaches that you're really impressed with? Getting to know them, building that relationship. Like I said, every opportunity is not right for each individual. So what opportunity makes sense for you, right? And getting to know you, and then making calls, about you, right? And through that vetting process. So we have some names and guys or women that we identified as, kind of the next crop of individuals that are the up and coming, right? And, I think, for firms, we have relationships with agents, right? I think, with the rise of the search firm, I think agents have kind of, I want to say devalued, but have played a lesser role with, within the process, so it's getting to know those individuals as well and their clients, right? And there's certain agents I feel that, they have a reputation or not, but you need to know who their client list is, right? And like the top connects, and they have their top 50 or 60 coaches, so compiling all that information, talking with those individuals and seeking them out, vetting them, right? And when I say vet, like it's like obviously calling people in the business about you and administrators, really getting to know you. What's your style, right? And how do you coach? What's your leadership? like? You know what I mean? What's your brand? You know, I need to know all that stuff, because when an AD says, you know what, for me, I want a product on the floor that we get up and down, and you know, we want to put people in the seats, and I need someone who's out and engaged in the community. I need to know that stuff. Like, obviously, I'm not gonna no knock against Virginia, but I'm not gonna probably pick a Tony Bennett disciple when they're trying to score 100 points. You know what I mean? So you know, it's having all that information beforehand to make those recommendations on the job profile. So yeah, it's an all year process, and it's getting to know you know, those individuals. And you know, and another thing too, you know, for the coach, you know, it's good for coaches to reach out, right, to search firms, to put yourself on your radar. Like, hey, this is my coaching. You know, everyone has a little coaching philosophy pamphlet or email or, you know, whatever. You know, send that to them. Like, let's talk. I'd love to, you know, take 20 minutes of your time and get to know you a little better. I know for me, if someone do that, I'm listening to them, right? Especially if someone I've identified as, I think, someone who's really good in the business and has a good reputation, you know. So it is a two-way street, but yeah, we do have to identify those characteristics before that process.
Perfect. Thank you.
No problem.
Next question, Bill Fisher.
Hey, Herb, this is great. So really appreciate you being on, and you know, all these master classes are always very, very informative. Do you do other sports? Do you work with placement in like non-basketball, would be like soccer coaches, administrators on that side, or are you solely focused on basketball?
No, we will, as a firm, we will do, you know, different sports. You know, I think a search is a search, right? In terms of, you know, I'm using the same methodologies and procedures to find the best candidates, whether it's in basketball or soccer, or, you know, I think the difference between those sports, you get a little bit more time, right? I think basketball, you know, everyone wants that hire in 10 to 14 days, and you know, you got to be there before the recruiting period starts, and you know, so there's definitely more urgency, I believe, on the men's and women's basketball and football. But no, to answer your question, yes, no, I will do you know, searches within all sports.
I have a second question there is, how about outside, like corporate America, or, you know, some of these brands that could really use, you know, maybe a coach that has that background and that can kind of connect in that space? Do you place people from a corporate standpoint?
I do. That's one of the searches I'm working on right now, is actually on the corporate side. So big picture, because diversity and inclusion is not just a college athletic issue, right? It's an issue across the board. You know, and companies are really want to diversify their workforce and you know, find those resources. And as you know, in business, right, they like people with, you know, former coaches or players, and especially in sales, right? Sales organization love people with sports background. So yes, to answer your question, I will do corporate searches as well, and to impact that.
There just seems to be more opportunities on that side, right, of the game almost. So yeah, I mean, I think if people think outside the box, there's so many opportunities that people can move into.
Yeah, no, I agree, right? And no, I think right now, a lot of corporations are really trying to figure out what does that look like. You know, if you look at even like the sports organizations like Nike and Adidas, you know, Adidas put out a statement, you know, during the Black Lives Matter movement, saying they're going to hire 30% more people of color and Latinx, right, from backgrounds. So how are they going to do that, right? And a lot of the times they hire, you know, from, you know, the sports industry, you know, so, you know, things like that, you know, the business and finance, same thing, you know, for sales professionals. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunity on the corporate side. You know, right now, it's myself. I do have a contractor, a consultant that I work with as well. So right now it's you know, myself and Kelly. But you know, as I grow my staff, that's definitely something, you know, probably having an entity on the higher education side and one on the corporate side.
Great, thank you.
No, great question. Thank you.
Next question, Jack Castleberry.
Hey, Herb, Jack Castleberry from the Citadel. Appreciate you being
Hey, Jack.
here. Two-part question here. I guess they're not really directed or related to one another. One, you talked about current trends in hiring and within an athletic administration. Are there particular roles, such as development, where these guys are the guys who are becoming the next ADs, as opposed to a compliance guy or an operations person or an outside, not sales, but outside operations person? Are there particular, I would imagine it's probably development. And then the second question I had, actually, I just lost my train of thought, so that'll work.
Okay. Yeah, I can answer that. I can answer that first question for you. Yes, there's definitely a trend when you look at the path of the AD. A lot of them do have that external, whether it's marketing or, like you said, development background. That's definitely a trend. If you look at some of the more recent hires, a lot of those ADs have that background. I think athletics has really changed into a business. So how can even if you look at the president's level, I think before they were more higher education professional professors, right? And from a president's level now, especially when you get to the Power Five, those are business individuals, right? Like if you look at some of the presidents that have been placed or ADs, definitely all have a business background because, it is run like a business now, so yes, to your point, that is a trend, from an AD standpoint, a lot in development. So I think, on your campus, whether it's your WAD, it could be external, right? Or development, you should definitely get to know them because they're going to be an AD. He or she will be an AD very soon. Just because, that is a trend that is, I don't think it's going to go away, especially with COVID. And how can departments raise money, right? And they need people with backgrounds that can raise a ton of money.
Next question, Austin Kelly.
Herb, Austin Kelly, Niagara University. You mentioned earlier how people kind of build their brand as a CEO through social media, different platforms. When you're vetting your candidates, is it more just vet them to, confirm their brand's accurate and what they, portray it as and to see if they can articulate it, or is it completely different strategy with that?
No, it's both. It's, kind of seeing what they put out as what is their brand. But also, just because if you put something out doesn't mean that's who you are, right? My job is to get to know who you are. And you only can do that by calling people, right? That's people in your department, people that, obviously, who know you and who you might not even know, right? I think, conference, who's the head of in your conference office, right? Who oversees men's basketball or women's basketball. We're going to call them, just to see, get their thoughts on you if they know who you are. I'm pretty sure they would if you're being considered for head jobs and things like that. So we have to do our due diligence on that end as well. So yes, it is definitely what you put out there and what your branding is, but it's also what other people are saying about you in the business. And if that doesn't match up, then obviously, probably, we won't, I'm not saying we won't use you, but that's definitely a red flag.
Next question. The queen of Living Trophies Master Zoom class, Coach.
Come on, Coach Sutton. Hey, Herb, thank you again.
My little sister.
Yeah. Thank you again. It's Sharnae Zoll-Norman from URI Women's Basketball again. So what specifically yells out like a red flag during a search other than criminal issues or something of that sort?
Yeah. So, I think, obviously doing a background check and everything comes back, that's a red flag. But, I would say another red flag, just during the process is, I guess just during the vetting, right? What people are saying about you. I think, sometimes if you've had a lot of different jobs, I know each situation's different, and how you leave those jobs, is another really big thing. So, I mean, if it's constant turnover and and I'm calling your former, I hate saying boss, but you're the head coach, and they're like, yeah, they just picked up and left, and they didn't really, they told them you're going to be here for a while, and especially if it's a lateral move, you know what I mean? I think that's a red flag, because people, AD wants someone they can depend on, and they don't want to be worried about if this person's going to leave me in 2 years or a year, for something lateral or something, if a school can pay you $20,000 more, you know what I mean? So I think that's a huge thing, is, looking at someone's, history and how long they stayed. Now, that's not to say if you started off at a low major and you had a great, trajectory, and you're taking bigger and bigger jobs, then I think that speaks to your skill set. But I see a lot of lateral moves, and you're not staying at a certain place for at least a couple of years. That's definitely a red flag for me.
Thank you.
The next question, Herb, don't hold this against me. The next question is from Orlando Vandross.
Okay. Coach Vandross. Okay.
How you doing, Herb?
Good. Long time, Coach.
Hey, man, it's been a minute. You're doing big things. Congratulations on your firm.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I noticed in the midst of your earlier comments, you was talking about being a CEO. You was talking about, can you be a fundraiser in the midst of a COVID a pandemic, things of that nature. But if you're in an interview process and I'm one of your clients, how do you really answer that question if you don't have experience in fundraising?
So how does the candidate answer that question?
Exactly, from a candidate's perspective.
Yeah, I think, if you really don't have that experience, I think there's always things you could do, though. Obviously you're not really bringing in a lot of money, but, to say that, I work with my development team, right? Or I've partnered with them and gone out, with some events, or, hosting our athletic department has hosted a golf tournament. I'm pretty sure everyone's, department's probably, had some type of golf tournament or whatever to raise money for the department, things like that, right? Even though in particular, you probably haven't raised that money, but you've been involved in the process and you know what it takes. You know what I mean? To say, you know what, I haven't specifically led a capital campaign, but, I have been involved, with our development team. I have relationships with them. I've been exposed to our donors and had conversations and created those relationships that helped, our university secure money, for whatever, project that you had going on. So I do think there's ways around it, even though if you haven't had a specific role in that, you've been exposed to it, right? And you can speak to that, and you've seen it done, and some of the best practices. And I think during that process, you can add some ideas, right? Do some research on the school. So you can say, I see that, this is in a great area. I think, to raise money, I think implementing this would be great. Or I noticed from the profile of the school and I went through your, donors and things like that, being able to create relationships with this type of market, doing some research on your end, right? Shows them that you're thinking about it. You're brainstorming ways to create revenue for that department. I think that can be equally as impressive, even if you haven't per se raised money.
Next question, Trey Vermel.
Herb, thank you so much for being here. I could honestly ask you 1,000 questions.
Ask one.
Yeah, yeah. Coach knows I'm the question guy. But I just want to say thank you for being here. I really do. I think this is extremely informative. And I really appreciate you. So thank you. I have a 2-part question that I've been wondering about. One part of it is, how do you compete in your business I know you differentiate yourself by catering to minorities, but how do you compete in what seems to be a really competitive business, because there's only a certain amount of universities or people looking for these types of services, right?
Yep, great question.
So with this first question, it's that, along with what's your vision for the future in your business? And then secondly, how do you define your brand? And are there certain organizations that you wouldn't work with based on what you're looking to promote?
Got it. So I think that was probably like a 4-part question. I'm gonna try to answer. Yeah, I was messing with you, Trey. No, so to answer your first question, you know, how I separate myself, my model is a little different, where I think firms try to focus on, you know, whether it's senior level or executive searches for like president, chancellor level, or coaches. You know, they really don't focus on mid-level entry roles, right? So for me, and how I differentiate myself, I want to make sure that that department has the best resources and from a diversity and inclusion standpoint. So a lot of institutions have been interested in a multi-search type of retainer model, where they might have 9 to 10 positions, all different levels, could be different sports as well, and they want to make sure they have a well-represented candidate pool. You know, so it's impacting entry-level roles, mid-level roles, and executive roles. So it's almost like, you know, I'm on retainer for 6 months to a year, then I'm helping them impact multiple searches within that department at all different levels. Because, you know, if they really want to have an inclusive environment and have people from all different backgrounds, you got to do that at all different levels. You know, so that's one thing that kind of has separated me and my model from the other schools. You know, I mean the other firms. You know, because they like to, you know, whether it could be just the AD or the president, and then head coaches. You know, I'm trying to impact the holistic, the totality of the whole department. You know, so that's my approach to that. I found it to be very, if they like that approach, so that's definitely helped. What was the second part of the question, Trey? Forgive me, I should have wrote it down.
No problem. It was a long one. So I'll end with this. So what's your vision for yourself in the future, your business in the future?
Yeah, my vision for the firm is to be obviously one of the biggest search firms in college athletics and higher education. You know, because I think diversity and inclusion, it's not just one. You just can't do one without the other, right? So I do want to really change that landscape and change the leadership model within college athletics, and making sure that our leadership and our departments reflect our student athletes, right? Because I feel student athletes are very diverse. They come from all different parts of the world, different ethnicities, right? As our leadership should reflect that, right? So that's my vision on the higher education level, where we are shifting that needle more toward that, right? And you know, if I've done that, and we've grown as a firm, and you know, I hope to have, you know, a decent staff, maybe of, you know, 6 to 8 people, and we're all working together with within the different entities within higher education. That's something that I'll be very proud of. And then also, you know, growing on the corporate side as well. You know, certain industries, right, where there's just not a lot of minority representation. That could be in the tech space, or you know, sports and entertainment. You know, growing in that area as well. So that's my vision for the firm, and where I would love to be. And if we were able to do that, that would have fulfilled my dream.
Hey, Herb, the next question comes from an athletic administrator who's one of our Living Trophy members, Sharif Hassam.
Sharif.
Oh, Herb.
What's up, Sharif?
Thanks, Coach Sutton.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna start. Appreciate you. I appreciate you also, Cardoza. I'm gonna start with just a little. I'll be quick, but I'm the AD at Susquehanna University. Brian Johnson at Binghamton connected me with Herb this summer, and he was very instrumental in helping me prepare for my interview. I literally called him. I had like a 20-minute break before my next Zoom, and I called him with a quick, about to meet with these, it's the advancement group. What do you have for when there's a history of disconnect between athletics and advancement? And boom, he's just, I'm like, that was really good. and I used that within 20 minutes of the Zoom interview. So, you know, he's just a great connect, and definitely someone who's doing things for the right reasons. And, you know, Herb, my question is, how can you give us just a snapshot of how you go about connecting with a university? You talked a lot about vetting and networking and building your network. Can you talk about how you go about, I got a great candidate for this search. I don't necessarily have a relationship with this university. How do you go about trying to get involved in that specific search?
Yeah, no, that was a great question. And it's similar to a coach recruiting a player, right? Like, you got to find a way and a commonality and someone who can put you in touch with that institution. So that's the biggest thing about leveraging your network. And, you know, within athletics, I always say there's, you know, 1 or 2 degrees of separation to, if my goal is to get to this institution, who do I know, whether it's through LinkedIn or my network, that I can get connected? And I guarantee you 9 times out of 10, I can get connected to that institution. You know what I mean? You just have to be creative and think outside the box, and you can't let that stop you. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know until you ask people, right? I was like, hey, you know, I know you're connected with this person. I saw that. Do you know them? You know, and sometimes they're like, yeah, you know, we were just at this event together. You know what I mean? And that's how it works. You know, the athletics community is so small in a sense, where if I can pin 1 or 2 people that kind of have those connections with someone within that institution. So let's just say, you know what, you know, that SWA, you bridge that connection with me to the SWA. The SWA then connect me with the AD. Now I'm in, right? So it's playing that game. It's doing your research. It's really utilizing your network. And if you really go through your network, you can get connected to people, you know, and that's one of the biggest things that I've taken away from starting this firm, you know, for me to be able to connect with some of the top leaders in this space that I didn't know 6 months ago. Now I know, right? And now we are having conversation. And it wasn't because of me just cold calling them. It was me using my network to get to them. And then you got to take it from there. Then you got to sell yourself. But when you can have that warm connection, when someone can bridge that for you, it goes such a long way.
Hey, Herb, one thing that we always say here at Living Trophies Master Zoom class is your ability to organically network will lead to your net worth.
Yes.
So that's one thing that we are trying to continue to teach repeatedly, to be able to network organically, and that will grow into potentially your net worth. So thank you for touching on that topic there, answering that question. The next question, Jay Card.
Hello, Herb. Again, how are you doing? Justin Cardoza down in Miami, Florida. I'm a volunteer assistant at St. Thomas, as I told you earlier. I'm also a high school coach. So my question is kind of 2-part as well. Is there a realistic need for search firms for folks that are like in between space that want to go from the high school level to the college level? I know a lot of what you were talking about was for coaches that want to become head coaches, but just to go to bump those levels would be my first question. Do you see a realistic need or market for folks to try to use that, or do you just think breaking in needs to be of a more organic style? And then just secondly, taking you back to your coaching a little bit, 7 years as a volunteer assistant, any recommendations for assistant volunteer coaches that also may want to keep moving forward?
Yeah, no, I think, for high school coaches trying to break into the college level, I think it is more probably organic in who you know, and tying in, to your local, whether it's, AU programs and getting connected with college assistant coaches, things of that nature. I think will be more of a hit ratio. Also, I do think, if you know someone who has a relationship with agents, I think agents do a pretty good job of helping, their clients get on with, assistant coaches roles and, things of that nature. So, in terms of, from the high school jump, it's, the AAU, it's the high school, are you connected within that community? Who do you know that's in that area that that can speak on your behalf, and just, kind of building those relationships, and obviously knowing the talent that's in your area, right? I think, college coaches, especially assistants, your value, one of the things that they're going to look for you to bring is the recruiting ties and talent, right? So what does that look like for you, and how are you bringing that value to that institution, or, as an assistant coach to get an opportunity, so I think be able to articulate that, your recruiting prowess and how you can add value there. Obviously the connectivity with the grassroots level, and then, just keep obviously building those relationships, with those coaches will help you, kind of get to make that jump. From a firm standpoint, we don't really, we haven't, at least for myself, haven't really recruited or identified high school coaches, for assistant spots or anything like that. But I think like you said, the more organic route is probably your best bet. And then the second part was for volunteer assistants, and how do they move up in the business?
Well, just you had 7 years of doing it, so I just didn't know if you had any advice. I know I heard you say, obviously, try to take things off your coach's plate, but I just didn't know if you had any words of wisdom.
Yeah, no, I think, as volunteer assistant, it's a tough job. It's a thankless job. I was a volunteer assistant, right? A volunteer ops guy. So, for me, and kind of how I tried to do it, was, obviously, take a lot of stuff off your coach's plate. Really, I think if your school pays for you to go to the Final Four and those type of events, just to be able to network and get information. I think, a lot of times, guys try to go there to get a job, and that's not what it's for. It's really for, to learn what is out there, so you can in turn use that information to say, all right, this is who I need to start developing a relationship with. Once you get back and going forward and gathering that information, so I think, using those different events is huge. That's how, I kind of was able to navigate that. There are a ton of, not a ton, but there are some networks, or like I did it's called Think Tank out in California, where it's a small, probably like 25 to 30 coaches at all levels. And, it's a development kind of symposium. I think attending one or two of those, is important, so because that is more of an intimate group, so the head coaches and assistant coaches are there, you really get their time and attention. At the Final Four, everybody's ripping and running, and, but at those little smaller symposiums, I think those are great to really develop some relationships with. And I was able to develop one or two of those that I have to this day, from visiting, those type of events. So I would suggest that, just as a volunteer person, trying to move up.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Next question from a fellow Blue Hen, Bill Phillips.
Herb, what's going on, man? Great to see you.
What's up, Bill? You too, man.
really appreciate you coming and sharing your time with us. I felt like we lost a good one when you left the coaching ranks, but I feel like you found your call, and I'm really happy.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's awesome. 2 questions. I feel like you've touched a little bit on agents, but maybe not talked about it a whole lot. How important are they? Who should be looking to get one? Who should have one? And then the other question I would have for you is, what is something that we should do tonight or tomorrow, like that maybe we're not doing? Just like one thing that, you've been in our shoes. What's that one thing that we should do like right away?
No doubt, for sure. So 2 great questions. I think, agents do play a part of the process. Depending on where you are in your career, I think it makes sense to look at them and build those relationships. I think the expectation that an agent's going to get you a job is unrealistic. I think they're really good for opening some doors, whether it's the top connect, right? Where the agent might be, that can get you in that door, open that door, or the next chair, or whatever, event that is kind of exclusive to the industry. I think agents do a pretty good job of that. I think agents are really good at information because they have multiple clients and they can tell you, hey, I think this job is going to be open, or I think this job, you might have a good job at that. I don't think, you should be paying an agent, right? I think, I think that's a misnomer where there's some agents out here, as assistants, you should be paying them. I don't think you should ever pay an agent as an assistant. You sign with them once they can do something for you, but I think my opinion is, use them for information, develop a relationship with them. Their biggest value, I believe, is once you are a head coach, right? So when you have a contract that needs to be negotiated, and obviously they're going to be really key for that. So that's just my opinion on agents. I do think there are really some really good ones out there, and you need to kind of find which one makes sense for you. And because I said they all have different relationships. Some do have relationships with administrators, right? I know there's one, Will Reese. He runs the Cal Symposium, right? Like, you're not going to find an agent that's really more connected in that administrative space. But then, at the same time, you want to go with the agent that can spend some time with you as well, and that's going to look after you, right? And, I think when you're looking to select one, like, where are you and how many people do they have? How many clients do they have? I don't think, guys should be going to agents that have 100 coaches, right? Because then where do you stack rank and all that? So it's a healthy balance, right? So, I think you need to, what makes sense for you in your career and what you're looking for and what you can get out of it. And for them to have a plan. If they don't have a plan in place for you, then you probably shouldn't be, working with them. So, but they do have value. Like I said, there are some really good ones out there, like a Will Reese, who is super connected. But can you get on his radar? How are you going to get connected with them? So, and then to your second part of the question, I think something that I think everyone should do right now, especially if your mindset is growth and advancement, is who is that inner circle for you, right? Like, really look at that tonight. And my thing is, it should always evolve, but who are those 3 or 4 individuals that you can go to and say, I need help getting here or there. And you might have to reevaluate that, right? And then I'm going to give just one more thing. Who on your campus do you identify with as being a rising star? And if you don't know that person, get to know them now before they go on and move on, and they're not in your department anymore. And we all know who those people are. And if you don't have a relationship with them, start now.
Next question, Cliff Warren.
Hi, Herb. Cliff Warren, Georgia State University in Atlanta, Georgia. Appreciate all that you're sharing.
If you would, a lot of people have asked questions and you've answered those questions very thoroughly. You've talked about networking, you talked about relationships. You also mentioned that you played, you were a student athlete, and that you coached. Would you mind sharing a personal example, if you would, either when you were a player or coach, and something that you learned that you can apply to your business, or a connection that you made when you were playing or coaching?
No, that's a great question. You know, there's actually a couple examples. So my first, as a student athlete, you know, Coach Henderson, David Henderson, he, comes from the Duke pedigree. And, so the biggest thing I learned, there's a lot that I learned from him, but one is the competitiveness and, thinking big picture, right? Because he was an economics major at Duke. Like, he just made me think differently. And he was just so competitive. And, so for me, looking at how competitive he was as a coach, kind of sparked that in me, and what it takes to be great, and using, kind of his Duke story and how, they kind of turned that program around. So, and how I do that, for me today is, I have a burning desire to make sure that this firm is one of the, there's longevity in it. Right. And I want to make sure that I'm doing everything that I can to make sure we're in a position to succeed and to grow and to give opportunities to people. And that doesn't stop. Like, I think about it all the time. And when I looked at how Coach Henderson approached his program, and not to say, like, I'm sure he thought about other things, but, he had that burning desire. And that's something, as an 18-year-old kid, I mean, it was something I just really caught my eye. And then a connection, that he's always looking, to help and use your network. So he's a Duke guy, right? So there's one thing about Duke's, that fraternity, they are super tight. So, he introduced me to Coach K, right? And he brought me in and introduced me to, Tommy Amaker and, things like that. So, to this day, like, he still does it now that he knows what I'm doing. He's like, Herb, you need to meet this person, and he'll do it, so that's one thing as a student athlete, where I think, even though, he transitioned into another position, and, we still kept in contact. And, as a student athlete, that's something that I'm happy we were able to maintain, because that always doesn't happen in this business. And I think, we can teach our student athletes to never burn a bridge, and to, make sure that they are open and receptive to meeting new people, because as a student athlete, that's hard for some, right? And it's uncomfortable, and it's not what, that's not a norm for them. But, if they can get used to that, and exposing them to different people within the program, and because you never know how that can help you down the road. I know it's helped me, right? Just the people that I've come across as a player, people remember me as a player at Delaware, and so that's helped me in coaching, to get into Binghamton, right? Coach Dempsey was at Ryder. I played against him when he had Jason Thompson. He remembered me, so those are things that stay with you for a long time, and how you carry yourself. And that's one thing that I've always taken away from Coach Henderson.
Thank you.
Next question, Jerry McFarland.
Coach, Mr. Courtney, definitely appreciate you coming to us, talking to us regarding your search firm. I just wanted to ask you, in terms of your firm itself, you talked about diversity within different athletic departments, and your vision was the fact that, you didn't see a lot of diversity, and you want to be able to impact it, in those ways. When you, on your searches, do you get are your searches all college coaches, or is it administrative as well as staff, or is it just for one particular position first? At a time. And then my second part to that question is, in terms of your firm itself, how can we help you? Because relationships a lot of times are one-sided, and we want to be able to help you as well as you help us.
Oh, no, thank you. No, I appreciate that.
Amen.
So to answer the first part of the question, I will do both athletic administration within all disciplines of athletic administration and coaching, so I'll impact both sides of the equation. And, I do that, just by, talking to people, tapping into different networks, just making sure that there's representation, from all backgrounds, making sure it's a diverse pool. Answer your second question, the biggest thing, that you guys can help me with is, on your campus, right? I asked for my follow-up, or what Bill asked me, like, what can you do right away? And I said, who's that rising star, right? I want to know who that rising star is too, right? So who are you passionate about in your department? Your AD, right? As your AD, someone who's open to having those conversations about diversity and inclusion. I love to have conversations with ADs and at that level, or SWAs, people that are making decisions about hiring and programming and things of that nature. So I can understand how to better serve that institution, and I have that information going into it. And like I said, those warm connections are paramount for me when getting introduced to someone new, so that's how you all can help me is identifying, those relationships and your own ADs at your schools and bridging those connections. Those are always welcome on my behalf. Thank you. That was a great question. Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Herb Courtney? Okay, there are absolutely no questions for Herb Courtney. Herb, we are honored to have you present to us tonight. Without question, you are a rising star in this business, no question about that. You took the time and you were authentically who you were. You represented yourself extremely well. I love Jerry's last question is, how can we help you? I'm really happy that you chose to accept my invitation to come to the Living Trophies Master Zoom class, because giving you this opportunity tonight, in this platform tonight to speak to our group was something that I wanted to do for you. I do truly believe that you're a rising star in this business, and what you stand for and we have a synergy. What you stand for and what I stand for and what this group stands for, we are truly connected. We're going to be supporting you in every way, shape, or form. Continue to go out there and knock down walls and knock down doors, and I know that you're going to continue to do that in such a way that you're going to make it even a better place and a better space. And for that, we're truly thankful for having you on tonight. If you would, could you please share your contact information? And would you? And the question that I always have is, would you be open if anybody wanted to connect with you and they reach out to me? Would you be open if I could share your contact information with them as well?
I'm definitely good with that. So. I'm typing my information in here as well, so everyone has it.
But Herb, before you do that, make sure Orlando doesn't get it, because he should have landed you, but you end up going to Delaware. He keeps telling me the story. I mean, he keeps telling me the story.
I still remember the conversation, man. It was a hard conversation to tell him I was going to Delaware, but yeah, he did his thing. He's a hell of a recruiter. I tell you that.
What was so hard? What was so hard about it? What was so hard? We are really appreciative of that. I'm gonna put Lamont Franklin on the spot because last night I had Lamont. Well, and I didn't have. I listened to and had the privilege of hearing Lamont Franklin, speak on Mind, Body, and Soul, which is a Zoom done by Justin Cardoza down in Miami, and Lamont did a tremendous job of presenting. And if Lamont, if you would just share your quote that you had about the Lord, we would greatly appreciate it. And then Herb, when he finishes that, we're going to give you the last word. Okay, brother?
Sounds good. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Coach Sutton. I appreciate that. One thing I shared last night, just as I talked about my journey and my faith walk, was when I look at God's track record in my past, doubting him in my present seems illogical. It's just something that I reflect on all the time about situations that I've been in professionally, personally, challenges that, we're all faced with. God always shows up and always pulls us through. So just knowing that, when things are difficult, when things are challenging, particularly in a time like this right now, as we're dealing with the COVID pandemic, as we're dealing with the heightened awareness around social injustice, just rest assured and know that God is going to show up and God is going to, do what he always does.
Love it.
And in closing, we'll leave you with the last word, Herb.
Thank you. Well, again, I appreciate everyone for just their engagement and interest in the firm and what I'm doing. And I would leave everyone with this. I think we all can do a better job of uplifting each other and making sure that we are really helping each other grow and being sincere about that. So, if we all could, whether it's, find one or two people you might already be doing it, just taking somebody under your wing and uplifting them. So I think we all can do that. We're going to make college athletics a better place. And obviously I want to do my part with that, but, I kind of ask everyone to kind of have that same mindset, so we can keep growing, as professionals and personally as well.
And with that being said, thanks everybody for coming. I'm selfish because every Thursday night I get uplifted when we have these Zoom meetings, these Zoom masterclass, and I grow and I get better. So I am very, very selfish. Nope, sorry, not selfish. I am intentional about my professional development and my personal growth, and being a part of this organization. The Master Zoom class is very, very special to me. So thank everybody for coming. Keep striving, keep serving, keep sharing, and keep soaring. Herb, you're the best, buddy. All right.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.
Right. Be blessed.